Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 38, my age minus a few years, of Run to the Hills. Hi, Gary. How are you? What's occurring?
What's occurring? I'm very well, thanks. What's occurring for me? Oh my goodness me. We did the probably last big day of the Bob Graham round recce's. I know you all want to hear about this.
So sorry, if you scroll through 2 minutes further on here, I'll stop talking about it.
So we did a leg 5 and then a bit of leg 4. I think, like I said, recce out and back, 4 hours there. Had a nice little sandwich on the top of Kirkfell. Got really cold. There was a couple of guys up there drinking San Miguel off the top of
You were drinking San Miguel?
No, there was these are the two. They were wild camping. They were going to go to a place called Sprinkling Tarn, which I think
that might be too much San Miguel.
Yeah, so they were trying to lighten their bags with their San Miguel. And we saw some other guys with Crocs, which totally...
Oh, that's brave.
Yeah. So that was good. We did that and the times were appropriate, which was nice. We did leg 5. I check all the times from summit to summit. So we were, after 4 hours running, we were pretty comfortable coming back. So that was very good. And pasty watch, we had... Two cheese pasties over the weekend, but then I went a bit rogue and had an onion bhaji too. So we mixed it up a bit.
Oh no, not together, Gary.
Well, within a few hours of each other.
Oh, that's brave. Did that repeat on you all night? I'd be up all night if I had that.
I don't know. I can take anything.
Your stomach is steel.
And then last night, because I'm in the taper, well, I'm in a kind of taper because I'm helping a friend.
Oh, the pre-taper. That's a terrible place to be, isn't it?
I'm helping a friend on his Bob Graham round on Saturday, and it's going to be me redlining. So I thought I'll do, like, as if it's the week before the event taper. And usually I'll do, if it's a road marathon, I'll do a couple of mile at marathon pace just to see what that's like, what my heart rate's like. So we did that, and that felt fine. And my heart rate was around the 143s, 144. So if I keep along that kind of effort on Saturday morning, then all should be well. And you know what happened, which is really nice? On YouTube, they have this thing called Ko-fi, which it basically, if people like what you produce on YouTube, they can buy you a coffee. That's what it's kind of alluding to. And somebody really, really kind of made my day. They bought me a coffee. I got an email from the company and £9. They bought me 3 coffees. So I was blown away. First money.
I don't understand. They send you £9 to buy a coffee, or you can.
Yeah, they're just giving you money, but they kind of wrap it up in this nice little package as if they're kind of buying you a coffee. I couldn't believe it. First pennies I've earned from YouTube, so that was
huge. I mean, almost double figures. This is time to start.
Tell the tax man about it.
Shh! Don't tell anyone.
But what about you?
Let me just ask, what's the weather looking like for Saturday?
It changes every day. Honestly, even when we went over on Friday, the weather was supposed to be pretty rubbish. But then on Saturday when we were over there, it was fine. Oh my goodness. I tell you what I did do. I forgot my race vest. We're driving over and about halfway to Keswick, and I'm like, Neil, I've not got my vest. I've not got my vest. Luckily, he had a spare waterproof. I hadn't packed gloves and stuff, and we stopped off at a petrol station and bought loads of Kendal mint cake. And I had a little fanny pack, they call them, bum bag, so I could stuff a bottle in there. And we just filled up from streams and stuff, and we hobbled by. We got away with it.
Didn't you forget your snacks the week before as well?
Maybe my memory's not.
Gary.
Senior now, nearly.
And how's Neil's navigation for leg 5? This is the big question out there this week.
Found a really nice line coming off Robinson, but I emailed him the GPX file for the Bob Graham round today, so he's not fully relaxed. But yeah, I followed him quite merrily on Saturday coming off Robinson, and I normally kind of stumble across all the rocks really slowly, but Neil took us to the right-hand side and missed a good chunk of the rocks off. So
you're in safe hands.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. But yeah, camping, holidays. How are you feeling?
I've been on my holidays. Can you tell by my rustic rosy glow and my exhausted face? I tell you what, it's not. Who was it? Someone said. I won't say the word because I know you don't like swearing on the podcast. But it's the same bleep different sink if you've got kids at holiday, isn't it? I mean, you just pack up loads of stuff and you go to a different place and you still have to do the same, but it's a different sink you're doing the washing up at. You're cleaning up all the toothpaste around it and you're shouting at kids. So yeah, we packed our bags up and they have this long Ascension holiday in France. They sort of like, they have a bank holiday randomly on a Wednesday, and then they like, everyone just take Thursday and Friday off too. Let's just make it a really long weekend. So French, let's just do this. So we packed up and we headed down to the south. The kids were so excited because they hadn't been out of the valley for almost a year. I mean, hadn't been in the van for like more than like 10-minute drive.
Yeah.
So they were we were on the motorway and they were like, oh, what speed are you going at, Dad? It's so fast. Oh, so sweet. So yeah, we had a lovely little mini break in the south of France. I did some running. I did some cycling. I did some running on the flat. Oh, holy moly shamoly. It was like so flat and so windy, but I had like a vest up and shorts. And I was like, but every time around the corner, I was like, where's the hill? Because I need to switch to a hike because this is kind of hard. But it was really nice to just go for a run without rain or snow. And I had a lovely my longest bike ride for 12 years. It was about 80K. Yeah. All around all these beautiful. My mate was like hammering it on this triathlon time trial bike, and I was like, "Oh, look, blue shutters! Oh, oranges growing on the trees." Like, hey, I'm trying to do a session. Stop it. And you take biking more seriously. Oh, but we had such a nice time. It wasn't long enough. There were lots of tears, mainly from me on the way back. And the worst bit was I did a speed session the morning. I thought, as it flat, I'm going to take advantage of a bit of flat and do a bit of fast running. Yeah. So I did 10 by 90 seconds fast with only 1 minute. I think you've done this one not too long ago with 1 minute recovery, which is nothing, is it? No. Nothing in between. I mean, the minute you slow down, you then look and your watch is going 5 seconds, 5, 4, and you're like, no. Mine beeps like it does the 5, 4, it vibrates. Does yours do that? And I'm like, how many vibrations have I got till it stops? And so I did that, and it was hard getting going. And then as I got into it, I was like, my God, I'm on fire. Not really. Thought I was. Jogged back. And then we sat in the car. About 5-6 hour drive was meant to be. Yeah. And of course, the whole of France had been down to the beach for this long weekend. So it took us almost 11 hours to drive back. Oh, my sweet Lord. I sat in the car. We didn't stop for 7 hours. So not only did I done this quite hard session, I was, my hamstrings had become as short as Bambi's legs because I'd sat in this one position cramped up. And I thought, God, I haven't really had anything to drink. So I was like, kids, can you pass the water bottle forward? We fill up like 5 water bottles because we're so tight. We won't buy any water for the journey. Yeah. And I always like them mildly dehydrated so they don't need a wee. And they were like, we've drunk all the water. And I was like, oh my God. Oh. So I kept saying, we'll stop. And we didn't stop for 7 hours. Could not get out the van. My legs were so tight. Got to the service station. We hadn't had any food. We packed the kids a picnic, but we were like, we'll treat ourselves to a service station sandwich. Yes, so by the time we stopped, there wasn't any food because 8 million people had gone before. Oh my God, so many errors on this journey. So many errors, but we got back and now we're back. And then you play the deathly game of catch up of work, laundry, sand.
You need a day, don't you?
I know you need a day when no one's allowed to contact you and you just do laundry and wash out questionable things from cups and mugs and but so refreshing. It was so lovely to go somewhere different, and it gave us a little taster of that there is life. Yeah, outside the valley. Green valleys of Morzine. So back in training, I'll tell you one more session I did because it's so horrendous. So I'm doing a little block now of like this short, sharp, horrible stuff, which I have not done for many years. In fact, I think I've done it since I used to run 800s at school, and my coach my whole session when I ran 800s at school was 4 by 200 meters. That was the session. Yeah. That's all I had to do all day. But you had to run it flat out and you had 30 seconds rest in between each one. I used to do that when I was about 15. I mean, I used to do it when I was about 15, do them in about 26, 27 seconds.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, I can't run 100 meters in there now. So this one I had to do yesterday was, I've blocked it from my memory, but it was 5 by 6 minutes, 30 seconds as hard as you can go, 30 seconds keeping the pace on, and then back into as hard as you go. Oh my God. It was so horrendously hard by the end. And the cool down was to jog back. So it was all uphill and the cool down was to finish jogging back from where you finished. So I finished like 2,000 feet up the hill from me and about 4 miles. And I had to run it all the way home. I honestly thought I had to put Lindy on the lead and go, can I just start? Can you just put me back? And instead of running on the track on the way back, I was like, should we just go on the road, dogs? Because I can't pick my feet up anymore. I came back home and I had a few calls to do. And I was like, I got 40 minutes before my call. So I had a cup of tea. I'll have a quick check of plans. Yeah. And I did one of those post sessions, sit and stare at the wall. And I just stared. I was like, I am I've not worked that hard.
You work harder than me. I never do that.
I was like, I can't do that again. That was so hard. So I emailed coach going, oh my God. And he did email back going, I know, it's disgusting. That's why you only need to do a few of those. But it's like, you need to learn to deal with the pain. Yeah. Because I am as you know, I love the high-dee, dee-dee-dee. I'll go out running all day, but I don't like that bit of pain. But you've got to take it. I mean, after you're Bob Graham, you're going to have to start delving into a bit of
speed stuff.
Get that speed stuff. So
I used to do like a 5K prep before marathon prep, and that was the 200s and 400s. Oh, I didn't look forward to them.
I mean, do we need to do that? Do we need to do that anymore?
I hear you.
Someone kindly commented on my Strava that, well, you can keep doing it, Eddie, as long as you're enjoying it. But I'm like, do I enjoy? I sort of enjoy it when I'm doing it. Yeah. But do I? It's just not pleasant. But it is those sessions that count, especially I think when we get to our level where we've got so much endurance that we don't really need to do any more long running because we're really good at that. Yeah. I'm just not very good at hurting myself. And I need to practice that. So there'll be some more and I get better at it and just need to really look after the recovery.
No messing about. Well, London won't be long, Eddie. The big showdown.
I'm going like 4:30 pace.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 hours.
Yeah.
I might dress up as something.
Oh no, that's the fear of failure, isn't it? When you just kind of put yourself
in a rhino suit. I have been beaten by a rhino.
Yeah, probably.
We've all been beaten by a
big
rhino.
ice cream or something.
A big loo. Right, people have been racing. They've been really in that lactate, burning that lactate. You've got tons of results, Gary.
John Kelly was ever in the lactate over his 58 hours.
Oh, did you see some of that footage?
Yeah, but at the very end, he managed to sprint, and then
that was amazing. But I think there was I read Jen Scotney's Instagram post. You look through that and look at the video and some of the photo. His eyes is like I think that one of the hardest things was keeping him awake in the closing sections. I'd have thought with 4 kids, he'd be like, "This is nothing." Yeah.
I wonder if that's what he did.
5 minutes sleep.
Do you think if that's where he made his gains, reduced his sleep?
Yeah, he had a newborn. He's like, we haven't slept for 9 months. But so how much did he break it by? 2 hours?
Oh, yeah, 3 hours faster than Damien Hall. So he'll probably be tying his shoelaces up soon and heading back out there. Actually, Damien Hall is doing an FKT, but I don't know what he's doing. I listened to Marathon Talk and he's got something penciled in, so yeah, watch this space. But yeah, Kirk, Eatham, Scottish Borders, and finishing at Edale, which is a lovely part of the Dales, Peak District, 58 hours, my goodness me, in 4 minutes. So well done. And I bet you everybody, it's a kind of a plug full of Sportiva here, but I bet you everyone's clambering for the what they called
the Jackals.
The Jackals, yes. I've seen a few Facebook posts about the Jackals already, so buy some shares in La Sportiva. And what else is going on? Tyne Trail Ultra South, I think it was. We talked about this last week. First place in there was Stephen Kirk. Second place, Jonathan Boxall. And third was Jess Young. And for the ladies, Jess Young, obviously first ladies. Sarah Perry, friend of the show, she was second. And Susan Clapham. Then there was the Brian Clough Head Fell Race. And let me just find his name. Daniel Howarth won that one. And first lady, Scout Atkin again, crushing it. And also we got the Dukeries. That was won by, the Dukeries 30, was won by Daniel Bagley. And the first female was Helen Dannett. And last one for me is the Dukeries 40. Thomas Shaw won that one. And the first lady was Marie Sly. So well done, everybody.
I don't think the weather was great for the Dukeries. I had a client doing it and he said it was very wet, lots of mud and puddles. I had a couple of things, results and interesting bits of news. You've heard the last one standing. It used to be last man standing. Now last one standing. Backyard Ultra. They ran one in Northern Ireland, and Amy Masner beat the Irish, British, and European record for women, and she's now third in the world, covering 245.85 miles.
Wow.
So that is pretty impressive. It would be interesting to hear her story on that. And another story in the press, Anna Rutherford broke the 212 miles Southern Upland Way record, broke it by 17 hours in 62 hours, 34 minutes. She is reported, it's a BBC News press piece that I read. I haven't got any intel on this, but she's reportedly only slept for 90 minutes in the whole of that time. Wow. And the stomach didn't like the effort and ended up eating stock cubes for energy. The biggest bit they talked about was that she'd had her second baby 9 months earlier and was on maternity leave. And I just wanted to talk about this for a second because no disrespect at all to Anna, what an amazing experience. And I will put my hands up because I ran for England at the 100K Ultra Anglo-Celtic Plate 8 months after having my third baby. But in some ways, that was one of the biggest mistakes I made because I rushed back too soon. As soon as I had my third baby, I started running again because I wanted to get this England selection. And I was fine and I got really fit and I was fine. But it was the post-race come down because I think once you have a baby, you got all these hormones, you got all this adrenaline and actually you feel okay. But then I suffered for the next like 3 years with injuries because I hadn't done the strength work that you need to do post-nat, especially after the first baby. I think you can almost wing it a bit. Especially if you go into it quite fit. But the third one, I always say that to Evie, you really mess it up. And I wouldn't say I regret what I'm doing because I never would. And I've got wonderful memories of that day. And I'm so proud of myself for doing that. But it did set me up for 2 years of then playing catch up with actually having to go back to basics and work and the core and the strength and rebuilding again from scratch. You know, it might still have happened, but I just wanted to reassure any women, mums to be, postnatal mums that read that and went, well, 9 months post baby, I'm just getting back into doing a circuits class and 5K, that is perfect. Take your time. There is no rush. Everybody's different. Everybody comes back different. And every baby's different. I work with loads of women and I've worked with them through multiple pregnancies. And some of them they've breezed through and come back running straight after. And some of them it's taken a long time and then they've had little niggles and then we've had to go back. Everybody's journey is different. So I think we applaud these feats of amazingness postnatal, but we also need to say, don't ever compare yourself to. Oh
my goodness! Yeah, never judge yourself from what somebody else.
What do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. Look after yourself. Think long term. Always think long term. Anyway, well done, everybody. Some great results. Well done. This week, I caught up with the Thames Path 100 winners, Richard and Lorna, and we had a great chat all about their race experience, their journey as runners, how they found the race, how it played out for them, and also sort of delved into their training before the race. Very different people, very different styles of training, and they both had very different races. It was really interesting to hear all about their journey, and I'm sure you'll find it just as inspiring as I did.
Thanks for listening, and if you're enjoying this episode, then pop a post on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Also leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, Spotify or wherever you are tuning in from. Head over to YouTube too and subscribe to our channel.
Hello, everybody. I am delighted to be joined by Richard McDowell and Lorna Spayne, the winners, the champions of Thames Path Centurion 100-mile race that was 10 days ago, 100-mile trail race that runs from London to Oxford. And they're both looking very sprightly this evening. We were just having a quick pre-recording chat with Lorna about her epic shoe changes and her recovery, but we'll go into that. I'm going to start with Richard. Firstly, congratulations on running what James has said and written in print is the fastest recorded UK trail 100-mile in history. How are you? How are you feeling? How is recovery?
Feeling pretty good. Yeah, it was a couple of days. Yeah, great to be on with you. I must admit, a couple of days I was very much struggling with the stairs, clinging onto the banisters as I was going up and down. Fortunately, my 2-year-old daughter, she was 2 yesterday, she can negotiate the stairs unaided. A bit of supervision, but she doesn't need help with the stairs because I was certainly not up to giving her any help. But come Tuesday, I got my COVID jab on Tuesday. I had a mile's walk to get my jab, and I think that did me the world of good. A mile's walk there, mile's walk back, and then in the afternoon the doorbell rang, and I trotted down from my office loft, and I was, hang on a minute, I've just managed the stairs without any problems. So yeah, a couple of miles walk on Tuesday, and yeah, job's a good one. Right as rain.
Right. I love that. 2 days. Yeah, right as rain. I'm good to train. Can you just give us a little brief history of how you found yourself on the start line of the Thames Path 100? Your sort of running history. We know you're screaming fast. Did you come from a marathon background, a 5K background?
Well, I possibly call myself a reformed triathlete. I did a bit of triathlon a few years ago. I ran my first marathon in India in 2012. Once I moved back to the UK, started a bit of park run and then joined an athletics club. Ran a couple of UK marathons, did my first London in 2016. I've gradually got a little bit quicker over the years. I think I've actually got a fairly good range. I'm a fairly consistent performer for the club from 5K all the way up to marathon. And then last year when there were no races, I was just looking at different options and started doing, as everyone else was, FKTs, fastest known times. Did a couple around London, gradually getting longer. And then once you've done a 78-mile capital ring, you think, well, what's next? Well, 100-mile is the next logical step, isn't it? And along with my sort of online family, the Bad Boy Running community, where 100 miles is just the norm. It's just the gateway.
This is I don't know a lot about this club, but it seems dangerous.
Well, it's certainly very enthusiastic.
Okay, that's a better word.
There's a huge range of abilities. It's very inclusive, and but yeah, they tend to be mainly on the ultra side, and it's lots of people just having fun. People going away for weekends, doing epic runs and fantastic long races. And once you've been exposed to this, it sort of normalizes it. And then you think, well, 100 miles, yes, other people doing it, how hard can it be? So the Thames Path, that was the first one coming up in the Centurion. I tend to train on the flat around London. So a flatter race probably suited me best. So Thames Path seemed like the obvious choice.
And you'd done South Downs Way 50 not that long before?
Well, that was my qualifier. So you need to run a 50-miler as a qualifier. So I ran the South Downs Way 50 as my Thames Path qualifier.
And in your, I think it was on Instagram, I read it, you said you ran that relatively comfortably in control. Did that give you lots of confidence going into Thames Path?
Well, it wasn't necessarily all in control. And
okay, that's not like this.
I had a couple of days as a little bit of a taper. Also had a bit of a dicky leg, and I thought, well, I'll just give it a bit of a rest. And I actually had a sports massage on Thursday evening. I said, look, it's 36 hours pre-race. I need to be able to run in 36 hours. Please don't cripple me. because sports massages,
that was brave.
Contrary to popular belief, a sports massage is nowhere near like a normal relaxing massage. So I went in for this massage with a sore hamstring and a sore calf, and I came out with a sore hamstring, sore calf, and sore quads as well. But a couple of days rest after that, and I was buzzing. So it wasn't the most controlled start to a 50 mile, my first ultra race. And when you watch beeps at you with a kilometre split of 3:15, you think, well, actually, is this 50-mile pace? No.
Yeah. But the South Downs Way 50 is a tricky one as well, because you climb up to start off with, and then actually it's quite a long, gradual downhill for quite a long way, or just a bit lumpy. So it's quite easy to go off quite fast. And you often see it, and it's not like the Thames Path where if you go off too fast you're going to pay for it, because it's like almost net downhill. You can let that speed run with you, knowing that you're going to lose it naturally on the hills. You ran a super race, and it obviously worked well leading into Thames Path.
Yeah, I did sort of rein it in a half distance, knowing that this is not my A race. If I run this hard, I'm going to pay for it in a few weeks' time. So. But it was a nice little confidence booster, yes. Yeah,
super. Let's bring in Lorna. Lorna, the women's champion of the Thames Path 100. You finished in 20 hours, 2 minutes. Oh, so those 2 minutes, do they hurt a little bit, Lorna?
No, not at all. I can tell you that the whole of the last 12 hours hurt far more than those 2 minutes.
Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about how you found yourself on the start line of Thames Path 100.
Well, I have done a lot of crewing and pacing for friends that have done the Centurion races predominantly, a couple of other races as well, but I had my eye on longer distance stuff for, well, a few years, but I've been essentially just that person that's constantly injured, had great ideas but never could just stay fit for long enough. So I probably paid more money to Centurion on wasted entry fees than I have actually done it. But on the plus side, I had some fantastic opportunities to learn and to understand about the distances without actually having to do 100 miles. My great friend Ali Bailey, she did the Grand Slam last year, which unfortunately only ended up with being 3 of the 4. But she very kindly asked me to crew and pace her, so I still managed to do 3 of the routes through crewing and pacing. And I chose the Thames Path purely because of the experience there last year with Ali. Actually, she had the race of her life, and I just found myself thinking, oh, maybe I could do that one too, and decided to give that one a go, predominantly because it's very similar to my training. I do everything road-based, and I like to make it flat, despite the fact that I live in a really hilly area. I often troll Richard whenever he mentions that he's done a hill or something in his run, because I've got more vert on my driveway than he does in the whole of his 16-mile run or whatever. But then I actively get into the car and drive to somewhere nice and flat so that I can just have a nice run that I can enjoy rather than busting myself over all the hills. So I chose Thames Path because of that, really. Make it easier, supposedly.
I love that you that story that you go into it, that you've done a lot of crewing, because I think one of the biggest things about 100, if you enter one and you've never crewed or you've never worked on an aid station, is you don't realize the suffering that is going to go into this finish. Because I think a lot of people make it look on social media, you see the start and you see the finish, and you don't actually see the hours in between and how everybody suffers from the winners to the back end. It's not handed to you on a plate, and so perhaps that helped you as well when things did get a bit tough. You knew Definitely. That it was normal in
Yeah, I knew I had done, I'd been involved with the Thames Path a couple of times. The first time was in 2018, which was a really hot year. And I crewed for Jodie Rainsford, who does the Bad Boy Running podcast. I crewed for him, and then I met him at Henley to do the pacing for 33 or so miles, and the sights that I saw at Henley will stick with me forever. I've never seen anything like it. Richard thinks that he wasn't very well at Henley, but in 2018 it was bad scenes there.
I think the thing is with the Thames Path, isn't it, is because they're so fast the first half. People go off like it's a Brighton half marathon, and then by the time they get to Henley, they're ruined. And really, the race hasn't even started. You haven't done any of the chunkier stuff. And I remember that year when it was really hot. People were coming in like into like the aid station at 8 miles in under an hour. And I think it was with James, and we were watching going, oh my Lord.
This is carnage. Yeah. And that sort of, I should have learned from that, because although it wasn't hot for us at all, it wasn't cold, but it wasn't, boiling hot. It wasn't cold. It was all right. It was okay. But I did the thing that you just said, which was go off at half marathon pace. And just think it's fine. It's fine.
I watched your first thing at 7:45. It says average speed 7:45 minute mile. I watched Richard's at like 5:55 or something terrible. It wasn't that fast. And I was like, so I googled you. I was like, who's this girl? Oh my God, let's have a look on her Strava. Let's have a look here. And then I was like, whoever she is, I'm really nervous about the last 20 miles. It's gonna hurt. Somebody get to her.
That's so sweet. You thought it was only going to be the last 20. I can assure you that I was done by 30.
Oh, no.
30 miles, I was done. I was just looking at it thinking, right, you've done yourself some damage here. But I laugh at it now. It wasn't hugely amusing at the time, but unfortunately,
lessons learned.
Yeah, and it was my first 100, and also my first proper race for 3 years or something. And it's really embarrassing. I mean, it's the most humbling thing I've ever done in my life. Like, you get your ass handed to you like that, and for it to actually, it was my strategy.
The proudest thing was that you carried on and you finished. That is a true sign of a champion. You could have easily pulled the plug and gone, I'm not doing this, I'm out of here. I'm going to come back and run this again. But you carried on. So that's an immense achievement. Let's go through the race. Richard, I'd love to hear about your race journey as much as you can remember, and share, how did the day pan out? Did you have highs and lows? Did it go as you planned?
Yeah, I had fairly ambitious goals going in.
What was your sort of a goal time that you thought was achievable?
The A goal was sub 12:30.
Okay.
Which shows possibly how deluded I was.
No.
Disagree. Doable another day.
How little recceing I'd done. I knew the route from all the way up to Walton-on-Thames, where it's all nice and gravel and tarmac and it's all fast. Beyond that, I just kind of assumed it was all much of the same. I was sadly wrong on that front. But yeah, went off with lots of confidence, on pace, possibly a bit ahead of pace. I was actually just looking at I wrote down some little splits here in terms of, because I fully expected my brain to not be working later on, just to know where I was expecting to see my crew, because one of the Bad Boy Running had kindly offered to crew me, so I was expecting to see him 6 times. So just wanted to make sure that I knew roughly where and when, and yeah, up to Henley, I was ahead of pace. I was ahead of my 12:23 goal pace. I came into Henley in 6:08, only 5 minutes slower than I'd run the South Downs Way.
And how were you feeling? What was going on in your brain then when you came in that fast? Were you like, I'm on fire?
About 10 minutes before Henley, I thought this is a formality. This is we got this in the bag. It's easy, yeah. And then my rather overambitious nutrition strategy caught up with me. I was trying to get far too much in the way of carbs down, and I came into Henley, and I was actually captured on video. Fortunately, the video stops at just the right point. So, well, how are you doing? Oh, I said, it's starting to feel like hard work. And then the video stops. And then a few seconds after that, massive chundering everywhere. It's just all this Morton was just coming right back out again. And then that carried on spewing for a good couple of minutes, fully emptied out my system. And then
a refresh.
A refresh. Yeah, a corresponding massive energy crash. Which wasn't exactly in the plan. I did know going in that perhaps my pacing was possibly ambitious, my fueling was possibly more ambitious, because I train virtually exclusively without anything at all, which is probably good for some things, not good for others. In a race where you're not going to be eating anything, yeah, it's okay. When it's a race when you do need to be eating quite a lot, that's something which I've just sadly neglected. So, yeah, there was a massive energy crash and a corresponding drop in pace, but I managed to just about collect it together and just about keep going, plodding on. It was interesting. I did some analysis on the splits, because you get the splits on the Centurion results of where you are, and they only tell half the picture. I was 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all the way along, but then if you look at the splits between them, I was not the fastest between all of them. So up to Henley, I think I was the fastest, and then after Henley, I was second. There was one sort of about 3/4 of the way, and I was the 5th fastest. I was going backwards, but switched up the nutrition, so it was mixing alternating electrolytes with slightly weaker Morton, just let the stomach have a bit of a rest, and that managed to keep me going through. I think the real saving grace was not unexpected pacer with 19 kilometers to go.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Meeting an old friend, an old university friend who's a very strong marathon runner with fresh legs, 19 kilometers to go. It's like, oh, it's all right, mate. How you doing? It's like, oh, how long are you with me? Oh, as long as you want me. Right, you're with me till the end. And he really pulled me through.
Wow.
He had a constant pep talk. And what was funny is he obviously hadn't thought much about his shoe choice. He was in road shoes. So the comedy of watching him sliding around in the mud was worth a lot as well. So he was like Bambi on ice in some of this slippery mud towards the end, all over the place. So that was great entertainment.
What was your shoe choice, Richard?
So I was wearing Nike Next Percent with trail soles glued on. So they were a custom hybrid shoe.
I saw a picture of those. So you went for speed with the traction. Did you have to send them off somewhere in?
Yep. It was a place, Cheshire Shoes. I've had a couple of pairs.
Okay.
So that was the same for the South Downs Way, although it was totally unnecessary for the South Downs Way. It was totally dry. So I had some original 4% that I'd had resold, and that worked really well. You have a slight weight penalty, but lots of extra grip. And I was actually half wanting it to be a little bit slippery, which would mean that people wearing road shoes would be struggling, but people wearing trail shoes would have slower shoes. I would have ideally the best of both worlds.
Are you going to try and patent those trainers now? And we could.
I'm not sure there's much patentable, but there's if someone wants to pay 40 quid to have their shoes sent away, then go for it. I think the margin of how long you can keep your secrets is fairly small.
And how did you feel at the finish?
Well, it's traditional in the bad boy running community to do to do press ups at the finish. I've sadly neglected these over my time. So I thought, well, this was one of the rare races where I was actually wearing my bad boy running vest as well. So I thought, well, I can't let the club down. Let's do some press ups. Cross the line, all good. Let's go do some press ups. So I was down on the ground. I couldn't even maintain a plank position. There was that, and I don't have any muscles above the waist anyway. So whether my arms would actually support me for a press up, it was, we're trying. No, we failed horribly, and I was just collapsed on the ground. So yes, physically I was a bit of a wreck, but also it took a long time for my stomach to feel normal as well. I lost 10% body mass that day. I think I was possibly overdressed. I think I wore my jacket. I think I was a bit too cozy in my jacket for the majority of the race, which was probably a mistake. It's a really nice jacket. It's incredibly breathable. So I wasn't ever sweaty, but I was probably warmer as a result. So I was sweating more than I realised. And normally chocolate milk at the end is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, that chocolate milk came back up on the way home. The first pee when I got home was a very, very dangerous colour.
All the joys. If you've never run a 100-miler before, these are just some of the joys you can look forward to post-race.
And of course, a couple of days later, 6 toenails came off as well.
Oh, lovely. I hope you showed them to your children.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And well, the internet as well.
I never forget when I did a 100-mile. I came back and I had to go into the kids' school because we did and teach them cricket. And the kid got the wicket bit and bashed it down onto my toenail, which was still bleeding, and the toenail popped off across the playground. That was my kids were so proud of me. So proud of me that day. Lorna, tell us a little bit about we touched on the pacing a little bit early. Tell us a little bit about your 100-mile journey in the Thames Path.
Well, I can tell you how not to run your first 100-miler. I got away with some pretty rookie mistakes, and you visualize, don't you? And I'm by no means a fantastic runner. I'm very much, I could happily say I'm sort of best of the rest. I was lucky for me on that day because there was obviously the track 100 a couple of weeks beforehand, and some really fantastic runners went to that. And then, when I looked down at the list of people that had entered, there wasn't anyone that was springing off as thinking, oh wow, she's definitely odds on to win and things. And I got away with an awful lot. I was given an awful lot of leeway, but I went out as I had planned. So it just goes to show how naive that was, because that was a kind of tried and tested strategy within reason around here on the training that I'd done. But I've got nothing to base it on. I've not done it before. No. Haven't raced for years, really. And actually, I've got a really good history of doing horrible pacing and really regretting it on the first time I've done any distance. It was the same with my first marathon. It was the same with my first 50k. It was the same with my first proper ultra. So I probably should have thought of that, but I didn't. I didn't think of that. But I got to sort of 50 miles and thought that, yeah, no, I'm pretty done. Like, my legs were absolutely smashed up, and then I just carried on. Because you have got to just carry on, haven't you? But it's very much like childbirth, isn't it? You always remember what is the terrible parts of it, and you never really remember the bits that went okay. And there were lots of things that did go well and that I'm really proud of. But I just it's kind of bittersweet in a way, I suppose, because I have got hopes of it being better. But still, just lots of things to learn and to go forward with should I ever decide to lose my mind again and enter one of these things.
How did your nutrition go compared to Rich's?
Oh, my nutrition was spot on. It's actually the one thing that I'm
We're
really
winning at that.
Yeah, because I have seen so much drama at these the things that I've crewed and paced at, and it is mostly all nutritional issues, and whether that is due to lack of fitness for what you're trying to achieve, and that putting people in distress and then making it more difficult to hold your nutrition, or whether you have not just practiced with the nutrition in the first place, which then you're basically trying things out on the day and finding out whether that works or not. I don't know, but I didn't fancy leaving it to chance. So that was one thing that I tried really hard to practice on my long runs at home. And I had got, I have to kind of tackle the low-hanging fruit, as it were, for my things, because there's only so much training I can do, and I'm not a hugely talented runner or anything. So I was trying to look at the things that I could do that were not particularly painful, but could actually give me a bit of extra edge on the day, sort of thing. And I was looking at hitting 80 grams of carbs, and I did that really easily, whereas Richard didn't do that so easily. I think he probably gets away with it because he was out there for half the amount of time that I was.
Yes, but I think probably it was your saving grace, because if you hadn't managed, it helped you still make wise decisions. You've probably seen it when you're crewing, is that when the calories go, people just can't make, it's pouring with rain or it's snowing and they're like, I'm fine in my vest, I'm fine, I don't need anything else. Or I don't need to eat. And you're like, you've still got 40 miles. So that was probably making those wise moves when perhaps the pacing of the race hadn't gone quite as planned. I would dread to think what I would have been like if I had not only have done the horrendous pacing, but also had lost it nutritionally as well. I don't think I would have finished. I think that would have been the thing that would have tipped me over the edge, because there's one thing walking around with absolutely no quad strength and just, practically toppling over at any gust of wind. And then quite another being in that just absolute hole where you completely underfueled and you can't move forward, sort of thing. I always had the will, and that's mostly what I'm upset about myself. And it sounds like I'm extremely ungrateful that I've managed to do and achieve this amazing thing, but and I think possibly Richard might feel this a little bit as well. You can have a really good outcome, but still have had ideas that possibly didn't quite live up to, for whatever reason. I would have liked to have done a little bit better with my time. I wouldn't have minded my time if I hadn't have felt that I had affected it negatively. There's absolutely nothing wrong with my time in a way. It's a fantastic time, and the ladies that came, that I was running against, had some really good races, and it was really close. So many people said, "Oh, it was nail biting watching the dots or whatever," because the lady behind me, Melissa, she ran such a well-paced race. She did everything right, and she just couldn't quite catch me. But on another day, she absolutely would do. So. And how did you feel at the finish?
I'm really relieved that it finished. I had essentially walked for 23 miles, plus or minus a couple of attempts to run after some astounding pep talks from my husband, who was pacing me.
Your poor husband.
Oh, yeah, I said to him when he picked me up at Wallingford to get going, this is the first time he's ever paced anything or been involved in the pacing side of ultra at all. It's not really his bag. He's very much a fast marathon runner. And I said, welcome to ultras, we're going for a really long walk. And so we did, for 23 miles in the dark.
I bet he didn't mind. So can you tell us a little bit now about how you get yourself into that sort of shape to run 100 miles, especially in the last few years that we've had, where training's been limited, there's obviously been no races. Richard, can you tell us, you don't have to share all your training secrets, but what your sort of normal training looks like leading up into this 100?
Well, there are no secrets. Everything is on Strava.
Love it. No secrets on Strava.
Anyone who wants to look, there's no hidden activities or private activities. I know that consistent, reasonably high mileage works for me. I think I'm fairly lucky that I'm fairly robust. If I keep my sessions sensible and keep my mileage, I don't go crazy. I have very few niggles. So I'm not sure who said it's like it's best to go for a consistent B- rather than A plus and then followed by not there. So there's nothing outstanding, but there's some decent mileage in there. So I think, yeah, I did sit some pretty reasonable. I think my biggest week was 130 miles, but I was regularly on 100 miles. I know I can do 100 miles a week. Not necessarily with ease, but mainly split days, so double days. So each run isn't particularly long, and it polarized as well. So my easy runs are really nice and easy. The hard runs are very hard. I will admit that going into these ultras, there weren't many sessions, so it was the vast majority of my mileage was relatively easy. So when you think about marathon pace, as you get faster, marathon pace gets quite intimidating. When you're running fast, and when you're looking to run 320 per kilometer for 42 of them, that's hitting marathon pace when you're not in shape is a challenge. But hitting ultra pace, my intended pace was about 430 per kilometer. That's easy run pace. So I did a lot of miles at just easy run pace, and I didn't have any difficulty absorbing that mileage, apart from a slightly dicky leg at one point. But I'm not sure what caused that. So yeah, just consistent mileage.
How do you find the recovery then? Do you have two small children?
Yeah, 2 and 5.
2 and 5. How do you find the recovery with that? That is a high volume of mileage to be doing, plus a job. How do you find you recover? So
I used to do virtually all of my running on my commute. I got a very, very easy run commute. So it was a format. It was easy. Just run to work, run home from work, and that was easy. I had to get to work. I wanted to get a run in. 2 birds, 1 stone. It was quicker running than any other way.
Yeah. Actually,
motorbike was a bit quicker, but it was marginal once you got change and things. And you got to have a shower anyway. So whether you have a shower at work or a shower at home before you go to work, it doesn't make any difference. With lockdown, that's all changed a bit. So now I'm at home. I've been to the office since March last year. So all of my running has been before breakfast, before the family's up. So that has necessitated some rather early starts. So the alarm was regularly going off at 4:15. Head torch, exclusive. So it would be quite rare that I would do a run in the light during the winter. So it was head torch on. Towards the end, it was like, oh, see a little bit of sun towards the end of my run, get home for breakfast time. And then I would sneak out for a little gentle potter at lunchtime. So that wasn't quite as ideal. There wasn't so much of a split between the runs, whereas normally it's a morning run and an evening run, and you're not getting up stupidly early. You're in a fairly similar time zone to the rest of humanity, but when you're getting up just after 4, you have to go to bed correspondingly early as well. So you're not necessarily such a social creature. It did feel at times that the balance wasn't necessarily always there. I have a very understanding wife who tolerates my stupidity, and I wouldn't be able to do it without her. But I was trying to get my running in without affecting the family as much as possible.
That's amazing. That's incredible dedication. Because if I have to get up before 6, I'm like, oh, I can't. This is terrible. I can't do it. But I get that.
Once you start doing it, that's
once you get into
your
the
body
habit of
clock
doing
changes.
it, and I get the doing the 2 sessions, because I quite often have to do that. Like, you want them more spaced out, but you're trying to fit it in so it doesn't. You're like, this isn't really a recovery session because I've hardly had a shower. My hair's still wet from the last one, but I've got to fit it in. Lorna, what did your training look like going into the Thames Path 100?
Well, certainly nothing as spectacular as Richard's. I do all of my training in the morning as well, mostly because I find if I leave it to the evening, I'm far more likely to have found an excuse not to do it. I'm used to running in the morning, and I feel like that kind of reclaims some time in a way. It's dead time otherwise. So I'm happy to wake up at 6 and go out and do, normal runs in the morning. I was sort of targeting 60 miles-ish a week, but I'd come in from a really decent period of training before Christmas. And that had built up a really good base, and I was running faster at the end of last year and the beginning of this year than I've ever run before. It's come at, I've had quite a lot of, periods of injury and stuff, and then I could finally manage to hold it together for a decent amount of time. And there are some fantastic runners here, and that, funnily enough, through Instagram mainly and through my husband's running club, just over lockdown, we've managed to so happen to be found training all on the same, because it's the only bit of flat in the whole of the county pretty much. We'll all go running, do your long runs on a Saturday or a Sunday, and there's just an amazing amount of runners out there that you already know and things, and I found that really inspiring. I so happened to get caught up with my husband's running group, and they do some really targeted, they do their long run, but they do targeted speed blocks within it, which is not something that I've ever done before. My long runs have been sort of long, slow runs for marathon training. And I started tagging on to the end of those sessions. And of course, their sort of runs that were reasonable for them was absolutely flat out for me. So by the end of Christmas, I was feeling really confident with the speed. And then that took me into some more sort of, ultra-y stuff, where I started to just do really long runs at the weekend. So I was targeting double 20-milers Saturday and Sunday, and then one of them was a 30, 40 or 50 mile, and the other one was 10. So the majority of the work was done at the weekend, and then just hanging in there during the day, during the week, but unfortunately a couple of periods of injury again, as usual. And I think, I had to just knock all of the speed sessions on the head and kind of change my stride to try and assist my hamstrings and glutes somewhat, which is just my problem area, unfortunately. But the plus side is you don't need to run fast for ultras. You just don't go too fast. Don't go too fast for the ultras. So maybe I'll learn my lesson.
So your approach was quite like Richard's in the fact that you did a lot of mileage, but more facilitated by the fact that the hamstrings were less. But you were coming into it with a good speed speed base anyway, so you could carry that over. Gary would now like to ask you a question that he sent me. When you finish the 100, Richard, what is your post-race ultimate snack? Oh, this is his actual question. If you're sitting on the sofa, what's on TV and what's your ultimate post-race snack?
Oh, it's probably some Ben and Jerry's, I think.
Oh, what flavour?
I quite like fish food.
Oh, yeah, I love fish food.
Netflix and chilled. Wrong answer, Richard.
What flavour is that?
It's got the peanuts and peanut butter cup things, and it's got the like chocolate covered pretzel or something in it as well. It's delightful.
I think I might have a tub of that in the freezer.
Oh my God, let's get it
There
open.
was, I think the co-op had them super cheap that I bought 3. So yeah, I'm halfway through the fish food, I think.
So when the tummy settled down, you went for the Ben and Jerry's. What you turn on the TV?
I'm currently watching This Is Us with my wife. I think we're slightly late to the party on that. We're still on season 1, but no, we're enjoying that. We have fairly small window with.
Yeah, I get that.
Daughter doesn't sleep all that well, so 40 minutes. This Is Us. We just about squeeze in. She's asleep, and she's awake.
No.
Well, we'll finish this episode another time. No, she's improving. No, she's delightful, but she's not the best sleeper in the world.
As they get older as well, that Netflix slot gets less and less and less until at like 10 to 9, they're all just going to sleep. We're like, oh, I've got about 40 minutes till I'm asleep. What can we watch that's going to be? And if anything's longer than an hour, I'm like, no way can I do longer than an episode than an hour. I can't.
Well, her brother is a fantastic sleeper, so we live in hope.
We live in hope. Lorna, what about you?
Well, I don't do a lot of television watching. Not because I don't want to, but it just somehow or other we just don't seem to end up with the time. I've got a daughter who really doesn't care whether she's in the room with us or not, because she's 12. But even so, by the time we've done, eating as a family and fiddling around and chatting about our day, don't really get to watch a huge amount of television. I'm more involved, I'm more involved in listening to podcasts and mostly true crime, and I listen to an awful lot of audiobooks, all murder related.
Do you? Because I don't get that, because I'm like, when you're out running, do you listen to them as you're running?
Yes, the whole time. Yeah, I don't listen to music. The only time I would listen to music would be if I was doing a tempo or an intervals session. But if it was a tempo,
when you're running?
No, actually, I find it okay. I mean, during the Thames Path, I listened to an 8-hour audiobook, murder-related thing set in Ipswich, and then went on to the true crime podcast, about 5 or 6 hours worth of people murdering each other and only slightly getting away with it. So, and then it got dark, and then I took my.
Oh my God! I'd have had to go on into a local shop and had to sit down if I'd listened to all that.
I like it because I know that people do running for lots of different reasons, and sometimes you want to be with your thoughts, but actually I like to not be with my thoughts, and I also like to not think about running when I'm running quite often. So having an audio book on can certainly take, the miles can really click by.
I always have a podcast on when I'm training.
Do you?
Yeah. Although sometimes if it's in a session, it's like, well, let's just pause this because I can't think about anything other than how long is this interval going on. I can hear my heart in my ears, but not much else. I can hear my heart, my breath, and not much more. And I certainly can't concentrate on anything being said. But my racing, I don't ever have anything. So I'd gone for a very, very pared down, ridiculously light kit for Thames Path. So yeah, there was no music allowance in that.
I would have had to have done. I couldn't. There was no way I would have been out there for 20 hours on my own, not listening to anything. That would have been terrible. But I also, it's really weird because you can hear yourself breathing and you can hear your feet hitting the floor and things when you've not got your music on, or your audio book on. So that would be really weird. I definitely don't want to hear myself like breathing, because then it would be a surefire reason like to know that I was struggling or something.
Well, I think maybe we might have found the key to the pacing unsuccess in the fact that you're going and then he stabbed her with a knife, and you got those out.
And they were on the Thames Path, and he jumped out at her from a vision, and then you wonder why there's a sudden spike in my heart rate and some 6:30 mile or something.
Richard, what sort of podcasts do you listen to when you're running? Because I don't like to actually listen to running podcasts at all when I'm running, because I'm like, I can't I don't want to hear about running. But I quite like stories of runners, but actually chatting about running, I'm like, it's just overload.
Quite a lot of running podcasts, actually. Running and cycling, actually.
Do you still do a bit of cycling in your training?
Not really. So I used to cycle to work, and then it's funny, actually, my first London marathon, I think I did 15 miles a week in my 18-week block, but a reasonable amount of cycling.
You mean 15 miles of running?
15 miles of running, yes, 15 miles of running a week. The following year, I ramped it up to, I think, 17. And it's kind of been somewhat exponential since then. But it's been, so I might start with sort of cycling 5 days, and then cycling 4 days, running once, and then gradually the cycling has been sort of edged out. So yeah, I will cycle for practical purposes. So so I cycle to see my massage guy when I'm unable to walk. But yeah, it's I enjoy. Obviously, there's a lot more tactics in cycling and things like that. So the Giro d'Italia is on at the moment, so I like to keep abreast of what's going on there. But yeah, cycling and running mainly.
What's next? What's next for you two once the recovery is, once the 100 miles faded into a happy memory? What does the rest of this year and the next few years look like for you? Lorna, let's start with you this time.
Oh, well, I've still got all of the stuff that I haven't been able to do last year, and it's sort of like on the same weekend. It's just, I only had a couple of things booked in for last year. One was in April, one was in October. They both got cancelled and moved, and they both got moved to the same date. Then they got cancelled again. One of them is out now. It was supposed to be the Paris Marathon. That's gone. I'm not doing that. I've got a trek in Madagascar with Rat Race, doing a test pilot there in October, but I really don't think that's going to happen. It's unfortunate, but I just can't see. I think it would be very optimistic to think that we're flying anywhere even close to Africa in October. I think that might be gone. Just been talking about potentially Manchester Marathon. Don't really want to do that one. I'm not going to lie.
Is that the short one?
Yeah, I'd love it to be short, but I've always done marathons because we've been doing them as a city break, and it normally involves going with a group of friends as well. And Manchester is not a city break location that I want to get involved in particularly, but it is at least it's a marathon. Then next year I've got it's called the Run Britannia. It's with Rat Race again. It's basically, well, it is Land's End to John O'Groats, but it's taking in lots of really nice places to run, and it's going to take over a month, and it's going to be like trail related as well as some road, and not just running up the side of a flipping motorway or something, the fastest way. So that's going to be a really big long thing.
How long is that?
Best part of 5 weeks, I think.
So is it a set distance every day?
That's a really good question, Eddie. I just signed up. It's not a specific distance each day, but we'll be covering sizable distances. It's going to be between 30 and 50 miles a day. There is scheduled rest day each weekend. There is a rest day, which actually for me, and when I've done multi-day ultras, I would prefer to just do a little bit less.
It feels so terrible.
It's going to make it a lot worse for me personally. But then again, with my injuries, it might make it better. I don't know. I mean, I work really hard to schedule in rest days to my training to try not to go over the top with, potential injury related shenanigans. So I don't know, but that's going to be in June. It's the whole of June. I would love to just tackle all of the distances again, to be honest, not the really long ones, but I would love to do a fast half marathon. I would really like to do a marathon. I would like to get a championship qualifier for London and run out of the championship pen, which is totally doable.
Easy.
Yeah, easy. It's not. It's nowhere near my PB at all, and not my official PB.
3:15. You were not far off that on just a solo 30 miler.
You do that through the first 25 on the Thames Path anyway.
Well, I did break my marathon PB in training during one of my 30 milers, and so that has given me lots of confidence. And
that just shows how weak your marathon PB is, given your current.
It was actually. That was another really disappointing day. And if you're going to bring it up like that, Richard, actually.
No, I'm just saying that's you talk about low hanging fruit. You could totally smash that.
I could. In a way, I know that I could do that. I would be more than happy to just sneak in, not go over the top for that one, and just make sure that I actually had a qualifying time, because it would mean more to me to get to run out of that championship start at London than to have like a really good PB, but like boom or bust, throw it all out there and then not make it at all on your one chance to do it, sort of thing. That would be disappointing, but I would love to get out in that championship start. So maybe I'll do that. Don't know.
Lots of, I love the variety, and you haven't set your cap at anything. You still want to get faster at all the distances. No mention of another 100-miler in the near future. So we'll wait and see. It's, as you said, it's just like childbirth. In like a month's time, you'll be like, oh, actually,
It's a terrible thing, because I thought before the race, I got stuck thinking about all of the things that, you visualize the race, and they basically become the only thing that I can think about is this wretched 100-miler. And I was desperate to just get the race done so I could stop talking about it.
And move on with the rest of life, doesn't it? Because
it just takes over. I become terrible at work. I can't work properly and focus because I'm thinking about this wretched race. And then I did it, and all I've thought about is still that race. And thinking, well, if you just did this in training, I can just see so many ways of potentially, even if it wasn't faster, just making it slightly more enjoyable and less hard work, which actually is what I've only ever run for, is to be better than I was before. You can never you can't control other people's performances. I've never looked and thought, right, I could win this, or I want to come in the top 3 for that or whatever, because it's irrelevant. I can't possibly tell how other people are going to go or whatever. But I've always trained really hard, and I've always been really proud of how hard I've worked in training, and it's purely to make it not so painful on the day, and just to try and plug the holes and be better than I was the last time I did it. So.
Well, that shines out of you. I can see you've got a future in whatever distance you decide to tackle. I have no doubt that you're going to tackle it head on and with terrible pacing alongside.
Absolutely. It's a shame that I was thinking the whole way around, what is James going to put in this post-race report? I'm going to be so embarrassed. I could tell you're going to say something in there.
If you dropped at 50, you'd have got a brief mention and you'd have been wiped, because so many people have done that. But the fact that you carried on and you gussed it out, that he'll have been well chuffed with that. So
I would like to think that I'm a quick learner, because I have done terrible pacing on all of my first distances.
It was a virgin error.
Yeah. However, I have always gone and been. I'm by no means kamikaze in my running, which is just why I can laugh at it, because I'm actually really cautious on my races. I've always run as per like the training dictates. I've never gone out with like crazy ideas or anything. And I always tend to do what I expect, you know, because I've not set some like crazy achievement or goal or whatever. So, but I didn't have anything to base it on. So I just went with it. You know, just world record pace.
World record pace. You came away with the trophy. Richard, what about you? What does the rest of the year hold?
Well, now I'm fully recovered from the Thames Path this weekend. It's the North Downs Way 50.
Stop it.
I'm going to double Grand Slam this year. So the 50s are going to be my fun races, and the 100s the aim is to set new course records every
Love
week.
it. Maybe with double strength Morton.
No, that's a joke. That's a joke. I've got nothing to London.
You got nothing for the rest of the year?
Nothing to London.
Nothing to London. Okay. And what's the dream at London?
Sub 220.
What's your PB?
223.
Love it. So you're gonna have a little break now, and then start another. Yeah,
I think a physical break, a mental break is as important as a physical. Just a bit of time to reset. And then straight into to some hard marathon training.
Heavy breathing training.
I normally do an 18-week block. I might cut that down slightly, and I might mix it up a little bit. I've had good success with a Fitzinger and Douglas advanced marathoning. I might throw in some Canova sessions, see how they work as well.
What's a Canova session?
Renato Canova. He's I think one of his most famous is it disciples, would that be one? He's trained Bakila, Kenenisa Bakila. He's taken him to some good success, and numerous others. So he an Italian. He's quite revolutionary in terms of his sessions are quite complicated in terms of they're all designed to tailor different aspects to your physiological improvement.
Just painful, basically.
Oh, unbelievably painful. Yes. That's a given. That's a given.
You run with your Wimbledon running club for these sessions, or do you do them on your own, Richard?
Well, generally it's a Sunday run will be a group run, and that's generally fairly easy. I tend to make it less easy by running with a buggy when I can. So I'll take my little girl out, and we'll be doing up to 20 miles, maybe a bit more. It's quite funny. There'll be a group of maybe up to 15, 20 of us running at a decent pace, running maybe 4:15, maybe 4:30 kilometers, and then I'll be in there with a buggy and a child who may or may not be asleep, or maybe waving a stick around or wanting food.
You're just clipping people's ankles as you go along.
I did that in a park run actually once. I bought a new buggy that was supposed to be fantastic, and it turned out not to be fantastic. It was highly unstable at speed, and I'd just been called out. The event director had said, "Oh, right, buggy start from the back, but you're okay. You're really fast. You can start at the front. That's fine." And then I proceeded to just weave around and take a guy out in the first corner. It was mortifying, and I sent that buggy back for a full refund, saying, "Look, no, this is
with his blood on it, probably."
Too much. So I try not to take people out, but well, accidents happen.
And what about your ultra career? What have you got any aspirations for? Another revisit to Thames Path, or a different race?
Once the mental scars have fallen off. Well, James has invited me to the track 100. So if London stays in its October slot, then that could be a spring goal. Not decided whether that's definitely given, but it'd be different. It'd be something to have a little go at, possibly.
Be amazing. It'd be super exciting.
That's a possibility.
I mean, you had Sarah Sawyer on a couple of weeks ago after she did the track 100, and I was really lucky to be crewing a chap from my running club, Mike. He was running, and it was just such a fantastic day to witness. That was something else. It was really great to see everybody's strategies. I was amazed at truly how much running. I know it sounds silly, but I just thought that people, and the women in particular, would be doing like a run walk strategy from really early on and stuff. None of those ladies did really any walking before 50 miles. I was shocked. And then I was like, oh wow, well, this is different to what I thought it would be, like. It was really worth going. So if anyone's ever got the opportunity to be trackside for a race like that, definitely. I mean, it's an invitational essentially, and so it really was the best of the best. And obviously, a world record went that day. But there
2 world records
all over. Sorry?
2 world records.
Yeah, well, and every runner truly deserved to be there. Not everybody finished. It was just the same as any other, like the dropout of any other, ultra. Not everybody made it round. But it was truly phenomenal. And then all of the runners were so happy to chat afterwards, because I was asking a couple of them some pretty basic ultra questions, like, how many salt tablets did you actually take on that run? To poor Mark, who'd just done the run of his life. He's like, I don't know. 4. Like, is it not written down? Did you not, plan this out or something? It's like, no, I didn't.
I love it. Well, Lorna and Richard, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Many congratulations again on your wins. Different journeys, but the same finish and the same humongous trophies that we look forward to seeing dressed up in various guises. Hopefully lots more trophies in both your cabinets in your future at whatever distances. Good luck with the recovery, and we look forward to seeing you on a start line, on a finish line, and training again soon.
Thank you
very much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to the Run to the Hills podcast, and thanks to Chia Charge for sponsoring the show. Chia Charge is about people having real food on the go that is made from ingredients you have heard of, and they taste great too.
Thank you so much, Lorna and Richard, for coming on the show. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and we look forward to following their journey in the future. I'm sure, though, Lorna was a bit sceptical about doing another 100. Just like childbirth, she'll be back out there before the end of the year and have another crack at it. And we'll see Richard at London Marathon, no doubt. Yeah, we'll see Richard at London Marathon. We're pretty much on the same pace, aren't we? Probably just use him to pace us for a couple of miles.
Yeah. See the back of him at least.
You wanted to talk a little bit about strength and conditioning in taper time.
Yeah, a lot of people are quite familiar with, they follow training plans or they may be coached, and it's obvious what the taper is from a running point of view. You still keep ticking over. My taper is, I'm still doing a few sessions, but there's definitely a decrease in mileage. But I was just curious, I know my approach in that taper time strength and conditioning. I wonder what Eddie's is, and also if you've got any comments too, kind of leave them on Facebook. But typically what I would do is I lift, do my strength and conditioning at home, but I'm lifting dumbbells, I'm doing lots of single leg work. So kind of trying to evenly work each part of the body as opposed to let one stronger side compensate for the other. But then when it comes to the taper, I ease off the strength side of it and focus more on the mobility. I don't know if that's correct. And I apply that theory because there's like a 3-week lag in your gains. So my theory or approach to it is, well, if I'm doing strength now, then I'm probably carrying fatigue into the event as opposed to strength. So from my point of view, yes, I will still carry on with mobility and that kind of work, but I would ease back on the physical lifting side of it. Is that similar for yourself, Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, the strength and conditioning are really 2 very different things, aren't they? And I think actually keeping moving is really important, and keeping that mobilization of the joints and the spine, but actually lifting heavy weights, the place in its the sort of two, depending on how long your taper is, you could slowly drop down the weight of the lifting that you're doing, or you could totally sort of drop it out of the program and look at doing a little bit more activation of the muscles. And then you will still be aware of your body moving, and also that you still are keeping, you can do a lot of activation work, mobilization of the joints. I think it's really important to keep moving, and moving in the different planes that you do when you're doing strength and conditioning, because as runners we get so used to that forward movement, and so keeping up other bits of the movement, just being really, really aware that you're in your taper time, so you can cut the size of your session, and really just focus on really tuning into your body, really tuning into like your core work. And I would carry core work through into like 3 or 4 days before a big thing. Nothing brutal, nothing like, not like an hour and a half worth of sit-ups, but 15 to 20 minutes of some shoulder bridges, some glute work, and then also like some little calf raises, some stretching in there as well, just to really just remind the core, because I think a lot of core work is actually just reminding your core that it has to work. You're strong now, you're not going to lose that. As you said, it takes a long time for that to drop off, but just to reminding it, but very quickly it will get lazy. You'll notice. Do you notice that? Like if I don't do strength for a week, I notice it.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Maybe it's because I've had 3 children as well, that I have to do my core work every few days to go like, come on, keep working. So I like to keep that core and that mobility work through. But lifting I would, because even though you get quite used to lifting, it is tiring. You feel it the next day, whatever. So I would go, definitely mobilization, activation, keeping moving in the different places. So I keep some lunges in and some squats, but just with no weight, and use that extra time for a little bit more stretching. Your muscle gun.
Oh yes, we got well, I bypassed that for a cuddle with Rex on Sunday, so I did on Saturday.
Dog cuddles, that's excellent for conditioning the body.
What I did notice when we were climbing up to Great Gable, and it was 4 points of contact, we were clambering up these rocks. And I
isn't it meant to be 3 points of contact, Gary?
It just stands.
I don't know where to go.
I was crag fast, but I just felt this. I could just feel it working all of my body. It was brilliant. I could just, everything was kind of keeping me stable. My arms and my legs were pushing.
I love that. I get that when I ski downhill and it's cruddy and it's hard work and you're having to like bounce, take the impact. But I sound like I'm some sort of like Salomon sponsored skiers, but I love it when you actually use the core that you've lain on a mat for 800 hours and it's actually working. Like, oh, thank God, it's worth all that pain. But it definitely will be when you're like 18 hours into your Bob Graham round and everything else has fallen apart, but you're rock strong in that. Of course, and you look good. And you look good on the beach.
The hands off.
Oh, careful. Take the teeth in.
Yeah, I'd be interested to, on Facebook, just to share with what you guys do out there for your strength and condition tapering, what your protocols are. I'm just going to nick all the ideas, Eddie, and
I think it's very individual as well. It's very individual on the person, and also don't take up anything new. If you said, I might try and do some of this that Eddie suggested, but just leave it now.
Nothing
Wait
new.
till after this. Nothing new, nothing major, no big decisions in taper time. What you got coming up, Gary?
Oh, well, you'll be surprised. There's a bit more Bob Graham action.
How many more weeks have got this? Well, we're going to get some super tips too, aren't we? We've got super tip expert
Katie on.
on.
We're going to have a chat with Katie next week and have her on the show.
Am I going to get a word in edgeways?
Oh, yeah.
So Katie, the line you take, can I just check the GPS? I've got.
But she's got a smoking fast time. I think she did it with Casper. I think it was 17 something hours. So wow, there was no chit chat on that round. It was all business. So yeah, that'd be really good to have a chat. a bit of intel, what she did. That would be really good for me. For myself, I've got my Bob Graham round where I'm supporting a friend. 4:00 in the morning, he's setting off. What kind of a time of day is that?
What the blazes? So what time are you gonna have to drive up there? You're gonna stay up there?
I'll go. You know, kids go to school and stuff like that, so I'll leave the northeast when we've only got one car. So when the car's home, I'll make my way over there, probably just after the rush hour and stuff, so avoid the traffic. But there's no rush. My goodness me, if I'm there 3 a.m., it's fine. So I'm trying to bank sleep.
Will you try and have a little kip in the car?
I'm pretty nervous. I'm a nervous racer and pacer, so there won't be much sleep going on. Well, it is what it is. I've said yes to it. Just
Are you wearing your GoPro? Can we hear?
No,
will we hear
no,
that? You go on. Save yourself.
Well, I uploaded a GoPro video, and it was the day after the COVID jab. I sound wrecked.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, not good. Very laboured, heavy breathing. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I don't understand how people do these Instagram stories, like when they're running and they take video and they're like, here I am. Because if I take even if I take like a video of a view, all I can hear is.
It'll be all curated though, wouldn't it? I suppose a lot of them would stop, catch their breath, and then
even though I feel I'm not breathing, then if I play the video back, all I can hear is like, no one needs to hear that.
So I think that's it. Workout wise for me, probably nothing exciting. I'm in the taper, so yeah, it's all focused on this Bob Graham round support on Saturday morning. Fingers crossed the weather's okay for Ali. Makes a big difference if the rocks are slippy and the bogs are boggy.
Yeah, for sure. All Run to the Hills will have
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
What about yourself? What's coming up?
What's coming up? Oh Lord. So we've had rain. I mean, I think for the last 3 podcasts I've gone, it's raining. It's still raining. Oh, so depressing. And actually when I came back Sunday, I ran that 90 seconds in like a bikini top and shorts. And then Monday morning it was flipping snowing. And I had like gloves, 4 layers on, a coat. I lost the dogs. It was a low point. And so it's still raining. So I still got to be on my indoor bike, which is getting a bit, I mean, I've nearly caught up on some terrible reality show, which I won't tell you, but it begins with an M-I-C. And so once those episodes are finished, I'm going to actually have to focus on my bike indoors. I've got another heinous lactate session and some longer stuff. Hooray! But it's going to be wet. But then the sun will come at the end next weekend. It looks like the sun will come. So
you've been saying that for a few months now.
Oh my gosh! I'm just trying to remain positive that it will dry up, but it's not so bad. Yeah, I've got a couple of sessions and we'll just try and not to drown.
What are these? What's this training leading to? Have you got?
What is it? This is a crazy question to ask, Gary. I mean, what is this leading to? Well, yeah, I have a race entered on July the 19th. So I am now, how many weeks is that? I mean, we've got like maybe 6-7 weeks.
Yeah, 7 weeks.
Start to get a little bit race ready. So I'm just doing a couple of weeks of these like harder stuff, and then I'm going to do once the sun comes out, because I like, you keep it there's no point trying to go out and do 4 hours at the moment because it's flipping miserable.
Yeah.
It's freezing. There's still loads of snow. So shorter sessions are what's on order. Yeah, I've got as I said before, I've got a race entered from July the 19th every weekend for about 6 weeks. But it looks like things are quite positive here, and that things will happen. Oh, I drove past people having coffee in a cafe today. Oh, I say, ooh la la, oh la la. Yeah, they opened up cafe. I mean, we haven't had anything open for a year, like to be able to get a coffee. So, oh my God, there are people. I've not seen like people outside in drove past, almost crashed the van. I was like, my God, there's people outside having coffee. And we're allowed to stay out. We haven't been allowed to stay out past 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And we're now allowed out till 9 o'clock, which actually, as it gets lighter, because I can go for a run in the evening, which I haven't been able to do which will be lovely because I love running in the evening.
Yeah.
So apart from the rain, there's lots to look forward to. A takeaway coffee and an evening
€7
run.
coffee.
No, the expensive Peace Cafes, they're not open yet. These are local to Backs, where the coffee takes a year off your life. You have to put in like as much sugar as coffee. If you say latte, they're like, no.
What?
They'll say yes, and then they'll just give you the black shot of coffee.
Yeah.
And they're probably a mum at school, so you have to drink it going, oh, God. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
lovely.
Lovely, thank you. No pasties here. So, yeah, that's my week.
Cool.
Fully exciting.
So that was episode 38, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. My name's Gary Thwaites.
I'm Eddie Sutton.
And let's run to the hills.